people of Atlantis had some unimaginable power at their disposal. The leftover influence of this power could be the source of electromagnetic anomalies, guilty of misdirecting ships and planes and leading them to their demise. There really are some strange structures.
This channel has 44 million subscribers. At its peak, it pulled tens of millions of views, and you've almost certainly never watched it. You've scrolled past it 1,000 times. It shows up in your sidebar, an autoplay you didn't choose, a bright thumbnail on a relative's tablet. You never looked for it, and you never clicked it on purpose. You never thought about it. That is very deliberate. It's called BrightSide. The people who run it are Russian nationals operating out of Cyprus. One of their other channels told viewers that the United States would probably collapse within 20 years, and that Ukraine was actually part of Russia. This is a video about the biggest channel you've never watched.
Here we go. Number 7, jailbreak. Jack is placed in a cell with a dirt floor and only one window positioned so high no one could reach it. He has only 2 days to break out of the jail. If not, he'll die. Oh, how should Jack escape the cell? What's your guess? All set? Here's the answer. He had to use the shovel to make a pile of dirt under the window, climb on it, and escape from the cell. Seriously, who secures prisoners this way?
And about how hard it gets once something grows large enough to tell the difference between a business model and a foreign propaganda campaign. Let's just start with what BrightSide is on the surface. Short, fast, brightly colored videos. Lists, facts, tips, mysteries of the Titanic, what your hand shape says about your personality, 12 signs you're secretly a genius. The thumbnail is always the same. Saturated, friendly, with an arrow pointing at the thing you're supposed to be surprised by. The content is engineered to be universal. You don't have to speak any particular language to understand a glowing diagram. You don't have to know anything to feel like you've learned something. It takes no effort on your part, and this is a strategic business decision. And notice what it never does. It never challenges you. It never makes you uncomfortable. Every video has a neat resolution. Every mystery gets solved in 8 minutes. You're never left holding a question. That's what the product is. Not genuine facts, but rather the feeling of a closed loop.
There are plenty of empty seats around. Time to switch places. But not so fast. You could put the whole plane at risk. Most aircraft are incredibly sensitive to changes in their center of gravity. If these calculations are off, even the slightest, pilots can still have serious problems controlling the plane. For example, one pilot could hardly get the plane in the needed position after just 4 passengers left their assigned seats and moved themselves to the front of the cabin. The runway at that particular airport was unusually short. If something had gone wrong, the plane wouldn't have been able to stop.
And it works. At its peak, BrightSide was one of the fastest growing channels on the internet, with over 1 million subscribers and well over 100 million views every month. Depending on the week, it's one of the most subscribed channels on YouTube that isn't a record label or a corporation you've already heard of. Think about how strange that is. You can at least name the biggest YouTubers on the planet, and you may have opinions on them, you've watched them, or watched someone react to them. You at least know why people are mad at them. BrightSide operates at that scale, and in some cases to a greater degree, with no face, no name, no fan base, and no haters. It generated billions of views and yet had almost no relationship with a single actual viewer. So here's the first question, and we're going to keep coming back to it. A channel this size is a business doing tens of millions of dollars. Who is the business? Because it isn't a person, there isn't a creator. The voice on the content is a machine. Tens of millions of dollars are being generated by narrating the secrets of your hand shape to impressionable children with developing reward systems, and we need to figure out where the hell this money is going. BrightSide is one channel inside a company called TheSoul Publishing. Things get crazier and crazier from here on out, so buckle up. Once you witness TheSoul's production, you can't forget it. BrightSide is simply one room in a building. TheSoul also runs 5-minute crafts, the DIY hack channel with the glue guns and the life hacks that you don't want. It runs 123 Go, La La Life, Smart Banana, formerly known as Smart is the New Sexy, slime characters for toddlers, channels in 19 different languages. They rake in hundreds of millions of dollars. By the company's own numbers, TheSoul has more than 100 channel brands and over 1.5 billion subscribers worldwide. Back in 2018, due to its influence on YouTube and Facebook, it was reportedly the 3rd largest entertainment operation on the entire platform. By the way, the 2 ahead of it were Disney and Warner Brothers, who you sure as hell have heard of. Sit with that. 2 of those names claims are century-old American media empires with studios and almost 100 years of back catalogs. The third largest is a company most people have never heard of that posts videos about whether sleeping on the couch means you're smart. Disney has 100 years of characters. Warner has a vault. TheSoul has a thumbnail template and the patience to run it 10,000 times. And by the only metric that matters on these platforms, attention, it competed directly with both of the others. TheSoul was founded by two Russian nationals. The company traces back to a Russian web outfit. Today, it's headquartered in Limassol, Cyprus, with offices across Europe and North America, including a presence in New York. It funds itself like any content farm, ad revenue. They bring in tens of millions of dollars of it. None of that on its own is illegal or even all that sketchy. Russian founders in a Cyprus tax base, a global content factory, could describe plenty of legitimate companies. Half the internet is headquartered in Cyprus for reasons that have everything to do with tax law and nothing to do with espionage. The brainless content isn't a crime and neither are the bad life hacks. The problem is that the content seems to follow a pattern that leads me to believe the misinformation is not nearly as innocent as they would have you believe.
Is our planet's shape. No, it's not flat, but it's not a perfect sphere either. Yeah, it bulges at the equator because of our planet's wild spin. It's like Earth is doing its own dance.
BrightSide's relationship with the truth is best described as optional. BrightSide is the channel that told you the shape of your hand reveals your personality, but it doesn't. That your sleeping position is a sign of genius, but it's not. Media Bias/Fact Check rates BrightSide as, quote, pseudoscience with mixed factual reporting, the category reserved for sources that publish unverifiable claims not supported by evidence. Rational Wiki calls the channel a major proponent of pseudoscience and pseudohistory, and singles out the medical advice videos as the genuinely dangerous part. Titanic conspiracy costs you nothing. Lying about medical knowledge can get someone hurt or in some cases cause worse harm, and that's where it starts to be morally and legally questionable. Nobody dies because they believed the iceberg was framed, but the same machine with the same friendly voice and the same yellow arrow will also tell you what foods to avoid and what your symptoms mean. The format flattens everything. A dangerous health claim that is completely false looks exactly as trustworthy as a riddle because the channel puts the same gloss on both. There's no tonal difference between here's a fun fact and here's something that could hurt you, and what's worse is they will never actually admit that it's misinformation. And in this lies the whole point. The misinformation is strategically placed with profit as the motive. I'm going to shift to the economics because the economics explain everything. A true fact is constrained. It has to be checked, and checking costs time. A false fact has no such limit. Scientists discovered. Which scientists? What credentials? Did a study ever take place? Probably not. A real newsroom that wants to publish one true thing has to pay someone to find out if it's true. Truth has overhead. Invention is free. Remove the requirement to be true, and you remove the single most expensive step in making media, and you can do it in 19 languages before lunch. Lying is a calculated cost-cutting measure. So before we get anywhere near politics or countries or flags, understand the baseline. The normal output here is systematic, industrial manufacture of misinformation, which is sold as harmless content that asks nothing of your brain. Now the part that for a few weeks in late 2019 turned BrightSide, a sketchy content farm, into a potential threat to democracy. In December 2019, an investigation published by Lawfare written by Lisa Kaplan of the Alethea Group, which tracks disinformation, looked at TheSoul Publishing and asked a simple question. Can a company run by Russian nationals out of Cyprus make anything worse than false medical advice? The answer came on a sister channel called Smart Banana, and it was a resounding yes. Smart Banana mostly posted the usual trivia and history, but scattered through the history videos was a set of clips with a very specific slant. One posted in February 2019 told viewers Ukraine was really part Russia. Another gave what the report called a heavily sanitized version of Stalin. Another claimed Alaska was a gift from Russia to the United States, which it was not. Another predicted that the United States would in all likelihood collapse within about 20 years. When these two types of misinformation are spread by the same overhead corporation, things start to become really suspicious. Individually, each one is the kind of thing you could write off as a sloppy history video made by people who didn't check, but when they're stacked on top of each other, they stop looking like errors. Errors are random. These all lean in the same direction, and every one flatters exactly one country and undermines exactly one other. Slop is supposed to be careless. This is careless in a pattern, and a pattern is the one thing carelessness can't produce. And there was one more detail separate from the videos. According to that same reporting in 2018, TheSoul Publishing bought a small set of Facebook advertisements targeting American citizens on political issues. They paid for those advertisements payments in Russian rubles. That's the detail that turned a clickbait company into a potential security threat. A Cyprus-based content farm buys political ads targeted American citizens and settles the bill in Russian currency. Rachel Maddow ran with it on national television, drawing the line straight to Russia's interference in the 2016 election. This is where the story almost writes itself. Russian founders, political ads, rubles, pro-Soviet history videos, all in combination with beautiful timing. All of these pieces point fingers at TheSoul Publishing, but the picture is still even bigger than that. After the lawfare piece, TheSoul apologized. It called the videos historically questionable, took them down, and announced it would stop making history content altogether. It deleted another related channel, and it stated flatly that it never worked with any government or semi-government organization of any country. Once again, the timing lines up in support of one unsettling theory. In my view, that response is questionable at best, but the skepticism didn't run only one way. Vice News looked into TheSoul ahead of the 2020 US election, the exact moment you'd expect a propaganda campaign to be most active, and found no new political content on any of its channels. Their read that this looks less like a propaganda arm and more like what it appears to be, a content farm, a machine for money, not for messaging. Even the earlier coverage hedged. When Vox wrote about TheSoul in 2018, it noted that, unlike a lot of what came out of Russia in those years, the content didn't appear to be overtly political. So think about what the skeptics are actually saying. Not nothing happened, it's something more deflating than that. A real state operation would have pressed the advantage. If you had 100 channels and 1.5 billion subscribers,
subscriber! The big fat 10. 1 and 0. Thanks for 10 subs.
and you were actually trying to move American minds, 2020 was the year. Instead, the political content just stopped.
Girl, you better get that out of here.
A propagandist exploits the asset, but a business cuts the product that brought heat. What they did looks more like the second thing, and if this is true, it seems almost pathetic and purely money driven. So we have two motivations that could both be in place that don't fit together. Let me put the two possible motivations side by side, because this video truly is about the gap in between them. On one hand, a Russian-founded company, Disney-scale reach, that manufactures misinformation as its core product, that ran a sister channel pushing pro-Russian historical misinformation that paid for American political ads in rubles. But on the other hand, when looked at closely, at the moment it mattered most, that same company behaved exactly like a business chasing clicks, and it denies everything, though in my opinion it had no other choice. Regardless of motivation, quite frankly, the misinformation had a direct, positive outcome for a government entity, so in my opinion, the real motivation doesn't even matter nearly as much as the harm. The anti-American slant got shared either way. A reach on par with Disney and Warner means the intent is the smallest concern, because the misinformation is mass-produced regardless. Look at what we've established. A single company that's one of the largest sources of information on the planet by reach. It produces content faster than anyone can check it, in 19 languages, designed to slip past your attention rather than hold it. Its baseline product, the normal, non-political, everyday output, is things that aren't true delivered with total confidence to hundreds of millions of people, including children, most of whom will never once stop to ask who made this or if it's even correct at all. A machine like that doesn't really need a malicious goal to be destructive. It doesn't really need a plan. Every single day, it's already lowering the resolution of what people believe is true about their health and history as a side effect of optimizing for the click. The propaganda question almost lets it off the hook. If we ever proved it was deliberate, at least it would be something you could point at besides simple greed. A psyop has a person you can name and a plug you can pull. Unfortunately, this really doesn't. What we actually have is way harder. A misinformation engine the size of a media empire that we can't see inside. They got caught reaching for politics and then pulled its hand back, and that's now too big for anyone to police. There is no plug. There's no person. There's only a template, a thumbnail, and an arrow running 10,000 times in 19 languages with a payout at the end of it. You can't subpoena an entire business model. It told you the iceberg didn't sink the Titanic. It told a sister channel's audience that their country would collapse. And it's probably up next in your autoplay after this video.
Test your history knowledge.
I'm a go to history.
What was the U.S. president's name in 1996?
President, 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 president.
Whether you like it or not, it was still Donald J. Trump.
Oh, the current president. Oh, the current president. I would rip this fucking animated guy's ears off. I would grab them and pull them off of his body.